40% of their awake time is right now designed with built-in structure. You now have to find out, what are you going to do with that 40%. That becomes tougher than what they think.
Welcome to Retirement Revealed. I'm your host, Jeremy Keil, and we're here to turn your retirement savings into retirement income. Today, we're talking with David Buck about how to unleash the power of your time in retirement. David, welcome to the show.
Honored to be here, Jeremy. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. I've had quite a few retirement coaches on the podcast, although it's been a little bit of time. And then I saw this book, The Retirement Collective. A lot of retirement coaches contribute to that. And here you are telling us a bit about your retirement journey on your own, but also how you help others through their retirement journey. And before we get to that, just tell me a little bit about life before you retired or semi-retired. What was life like when you were working in kind of the corporate world before you? And actually, how are you preparing for your future retirement?
That's great. All good questions. I spent the bulk of my career as a person of business in business development. It's a fancy word for sales. And I really spent the bulk of it focusing on how would I be better able to serve my customers. And I kept coming back to this time element, this element that said, if I used my time well, and I helped them use their time well, I usually either got the sale or held on to the client for a long period of time. And that led me to start my own company, really as part of a journey to figure out, what am I going to do in retirement? Because I was blessed with parents who pushed me to save at an early age. I listened to them and was in a position to semi-retire. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with my life if I do that? And so created my company as a way for me to be a flexible outlet to enjoy what I do, but still pursue all those personal things I've been wanting to do as well.
Yeah, for sure. What maybe caused you to start thinking, wait a second, what am I going to do for the rest of my life?
So I want to say about 3 years or so, my wife and I were having our semi-annual review with our financial advisors, and unbeknownst to me, she just blurts out, what if Dave retired today? And our advisors gave us counsel to say, we'd like you to wait a little while longer, but if you really felt you needed to and could live a frugal lifestyle, yeah, technically if you wanted to. And that hit me upside the head like a sledgehammer, because I'm going, what am I going to do with all this time that I have, this free time? Because I was deriving and still do get a lot of personal value and satisfaction of having work and helping others. So that led me on my own personal journey to try to figure that out.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're young and you're growing through your career, and you focus all this time on saving money. I guess eventually you end up realizing I don't know if you save time, but all of a sudden you have time. It's like you maybe spent a lot of time figuring out the finances, and you seem to get kind of just a revelation there. Wait a second, what's my time going to look like? So you developed a few concepts. What did you do then to say, how am I going to work with my time? What am I going to do?
Well, part of my business was at the time only working with, I called people in careers. So I had created an assessment tool and a process by which I helped individuals, teams, and entire companies improve their own productivity. And I'm like, well, let me just take those principles and see if I can apply how to use my time effectively in retirement. And after doing a ton of research, asking a lot of other people, finding that there were a lot of people in my age groups. I was in my late 50s. I'm 60 now, that were feeling the same way, that said, oh, golly, what am I going to do with all this time? And so I created an assessment process through that and some supplemental materials. And so on my own personal journey, I was able to come back and say, I have a lifestyle strategy that's adaptable, but it's in line with my financial strategy. So therefore, I'm not planning to do all these amazing things that my advisor is going to say, what, you can't afford that. What are you doing? So it tries to align the two together.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you're aligning your financial strategy with your lifestyle strategy. It's interesting because it seemed like you did the financial strategy first and then started thinking the lifestyle strategy. I've had someone recently just kind of signing on as a client, and they had spent a lot of time dreaming about their lifestyle. and here's the things I want to do. They even create a budget for here's the lifestyle we'd like to live, but they hadn't figured out, can my money actually make that work? And it's an interesting thing because when we kind of pull through, and kudos for them to creating this strategy, this budget of here's what we think it's going to cost to do what we want to do in retirement. But I had to come in and kind of say, well, here's what you can afford to do in retirement, and there was a bit of a mismatch. It wasn't out of the picture, but it wasn't. It's not quite in the picture yet. So they've got some lifestyle strategy thinking to do here. Of okay, we wanted X dollar amount, we've got a little bit less than maybe in reality. So they've got a bit of lifestyle strategy to go through. So interesting. What would you tell them? Like, how would they maybe try to just look at their lifestyle strategy and keep that in line with their financial strategy?
Well, first of all, kudos to them for being proactive to do that because most of the time it is. Everything I was based upon was a financial strategy. And at some point, we actually switched the advisors that we used with because it was all financial strategy. And they would say, well, your portfolio performed 4% better than the market average. And I'm like, yeah, but should it be 10? What should it be? And so, again, great that they did that. What they really should do at this point is to say, okay, I've got a strategy of what I want, sounds like their optimal life to be. I think they should go back, and I would recommend people do a lean budget. What is the very least I have to have in order not just put roof over your head and put food on your mouth or on the table, but something that says I cover the mandatory expenses plus more that says I can live a simplistic lifestyle, then compare those two. Because it might then, you're not dealing necessarily with micro numbers. You might say, golly, I'm only $10,000 off a year. And then that gives them the power to talk to someone like you to say, hey, what do I have to do to get 10,000 more a year? Can you give me some advice? And the last thing I would say is anyone who's planning their lifestyle strategy, I am a big proponent, and I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm a big proponent that you use one because there are so many things our advisors have told us we would never even thought about from an economic standpoint that has positively influenced us on how we're going to live our lifestyle strategy.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, lifestyle and financial strategy together. I was going to go there, but you brought this up, and I'm curious. This might be helpful for everyone. Is how did you go about finding a new financial advisor?
It went through well, first of all, it was a referral from someone
Hmm.
else who was using it. But one of using that firm, one of the biggest challenges for us is number one, we wanted somebody that would listen and ask more questions than not. I always felt, and we used some traditional large houses, which I'm not critical of those,
Hmm.
but I found that they were very formulaic and it was very repetitive. Whereas I wanted someone who could challenge me, provide me scenarios, and also respect the fact that if I wanted to strive towards a lifestyle goal that or do things that maybe were out of the norm, their goal there was to simply say, let us find a way to empower you to do that or tell you ways you need to come with more to the table to be able to do that.
That's good. It sounds like you found someone, so that's good
We
news.
did.
Yeah,
Yes.
excellent. I like the word empower. I think that's one of the things I'm hoping to do is educate and empower folks. So I like that you're looking to feel empowered. Makes me
Yeah.
feel good that I'm on the right track, perhaps. Good. Well, you talk to a lot of executives, managers, business owners now about their time. You've got a process called the retirement time analysis. Tell me a little bit about the retirement time analysis, and then also too, I might ask this a second time, but where do these folks kind of falter? What mistakes are they making as they head into retirement?
So I'll start with the second question first on the faltering. And I ask people to lay this out. Let's say the average person, the executive or someone heading into retirement's working 48 hours a week. Now, they might say that's a lot more than what I'm working, but just let's go with 48.
Hmm.
And then they're sleeping 7 hours a night. That's 40% of their awake time is right now designed with built in structure derived from the work that they have. And if you choose to what I term cold turkey, like I'm going to stop working altogether in retirement, you now have to find out what are you going to do with that 40% more time that now is unstructured in your day when your eyelids are open. That becomes tougher than what they think because you're used to, as an executive or a leader, either delivering uh, things that need to be done or handling fires or putting things out. And when you take that away, time can become a vacuum, and it sucks energy and effort away from what you do. So then what I do with my process, starting with the retirement time analysis, is I evaluate how or that people self-assess in 6 different categories that they look at their life and reflect upon that, that then gives them either what are my strengths that I can lean into to improve upon, or what are my opportunities from a lifestyle standpoint that I need to invest the time in, hopefully before retirement, but you can do it in retirement, that then establishes this structure, this new structure for me that gives me meaning and purpose.
Yeah, you've got it. Do you mind sharing what are those 6 different categories we should maybe be tracking where it's at and thinking it through?
Sure. I'll start with the first one I lead off with is the career mindset. Because so many people, and those who have taken the retirement time analysis, probably about 70% of them right now say that their career is their single most important value in their life right now. And you
Mm,
might say that's a little cold-hearted and cruel, but if you look at most people who are in their 50s and their 60s, the kids are usually out of the house at that point, and they have this, they're the empty nest, and they usually pour their effort into their career. And so what I want to do is stop for a second and reflect on that career mindset and begin to understand, how do I disengage from that if I choose to, or if I stay with a career in retirement, how do I still have flexibility in life to pursue my personal aspirations that I want to go for?
yeah, oh, that's great. Yeah, so focus on that. And it's interesting too. You'd think, like you said, it is probably cold hearted, but you spend so much time focusing on your kids, and I bet you the grandkids haven't shown up yet. So it's like you've got this window of
Yes.
what else are you going to do? Might as well focus on the career part of it. And of course, in a way, that's maybe taken away in retirement if the career is gone, whether by choice or not. Although while you're in the career, you hear this time about life, or this phrase, life balance, work life balance. You wrote in the article I read, the chapter in the book, that it's really life flexibility, not life balance. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. I'm not a fan of balance because I always felt it's very hard to maintain it. That balance in this case means I'm going to do 50% work and 50% life or personal life. That normally doesn't work out. So the flexibility acknowledges the fact that there are going to be periods of time in your life where you're going to have to devote more to the career side, just naturally with what happens. And then flip side, for example, a few years ago, I had to spend a lot of time taking care of my aging mom before she passed. And I needed that flexibility. I could still work, but I needed that flexibility. So the idea behind it is you invest in relationship capital on both sides of your life. So when you have to work more, you don't ignore the family life. You thank them and you appreciate them for allowing you the flexibility to live into the professional side. Then on the flip side, if something happens on the personal side of life, you thank your employer, you thank whatever, if you're the owner or whatever, but you thank those that are helping you as you have to focus on both of those. So the idea is you can then flex back and forth between them because both sides of your life understand it.
Yeah, you got it. And of course, you were kind of this corporate world. I imagine your time was maybe a bit dictated to you. You were exposed to this idea. Your wife asked the question of, well, what if David retired today? And then I believe you had some sort of transition. What was the result of kind of your thinking through the retirement time analysis for you and where you're at now?
So one of the biggest challenges I had, and I still struggle with, is accepting the term semi-retired because retirement in many cases can have a negative connotation to it. So really the idea for me was first I did my business as a side hustle while I worked in corporate life, and then really said, can I lean into this enough to derive enough personal satisfaction on the professional side while I pursued the flexible stuff? And I was blessed to be able to make that transition. And then now it's constantly challenging myself. Where do I want to devote my time? So I set life up that my business is mobile. In effect, it's cloud based on my laptop, so that if I choose to say, I am going next week to spend a week to visit my youngest son, I take it with me and I can still do business in the margins if I want to. Then likewise, if I'm kind of like I'm 2 weeks out, I want to, take 2 weeks off. I can block my calendar off, rearrange things if I need to. But it's also communicating to my clients, I'm trying to live the life I want you to as well. So I can be an example as much as I can help them.
That's great. Yeah, you got that time flexibility. It sounds like you've put a lot of thought into thinking of what it is you want to do, what you don't want to do. And something that was fun in your article that you don't want to do is you're trying to avoid all the pickleballers in your
Yes.
life. You said, tell me a little bit more about that. I've just started pickleballing, so we'll see if this conversation ends right now.
That's right. So I have to chuckle. I live in a 55 plus community. We weaved our way into that as we were helping my mother in law in her older years. And I found that pickleball people are extremely passionate.
Yes.
Those who start the sport, they really, really like it. And they want everyone else to be a participant in it. And I have been asked numerous times, you need to join pickleball. You need to do pickleball. And I'm like, okay, I'm working part time. You need to figure things out. And I said, folks, you all are in a cult. You need to back down a little bit. But they're very passionate about the sport. But it is so beneficial, I think, for anybody at any age, but particularly for those retirees who are trying to stay active.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's not right for you now. We'll see. I imagine you've got a long semi-retirement and longer retirement ahead of you. So we'll see how you feel going forward. Although I'm curious because you mentioned to me when you said just now that you just turned 60 and you're in a 55 plus community. I found a lot of times that 55 plus usually means 75 plus. So tell me a little bit about that. What was that maybe your experience, and what advice would you give someone on moving into a 55 plus community?
Yeah, it does lean towards the higher end of the age group. I would definitely agree with that. We obviously moved in here to be close to my mother in law. She lives two
Hmm.
miles from us. We're able to help care for her. What I would say to people, though, is it if you want to have an opportunity to view how people do retirement well and don't, I live in a laboratory. I
I
love the
suppose.
fact that I get to see people who do retirement well, but I also see, and I have neighbors who I watch to see if their trash can goes out every trash day, because they have unfortunately self isolated so much
Mm.
that that's the indication to me that everything is okay. And I want people to live on the active side of things, where they've got a whole host of things going on that they continue on well into their 80s.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the self-isolating. I don't know if it was in the book that I was reading because there's quite a lot of articles. There was just a recent news article I saw that people are generally happier if they live in their own home until about age 75. And then after that, they're happier if they live in an apartment, just because it's easier to shut yourself off in your own home. Once you reach 75, maybe it's harder uh, to to become more active, or it's easier to isolate yourself at that point in time. I suppose the 55 plus. I don't know if you're in a condo and single family home or whatnot, but it's maybe that's the best of both worlds, where you can have your own home, but have a lot more social activities going around you.
I think you hit on something that is missed, almost missed by everybody as they consider their retirement lifestyle strategy, and that is the change of residence. Right now, I want to say, I think it was AARP last year said that close to 20% of people have changed their residency, but they anticipate that's only going to get older as we get multiple generations in retirement. Obviously, my mother-in-law's in retirement. I'm getting there as a semi-retired person, so you're going to have that. And so, yeah, we live in a condo, which makes it easier, but she had to transition from her single family home in her 80s to an independent living facility. And my wife just talked to her yesterday, and she said, I actually really like it here. I'm glad that I did, because she has that built-in social interaction, which is so important.
Yeah, and it's great to hear that she was able to move to an independent living spot, because that means it was probably more of her choice as opposed to maybe some medical issue forced her into assisted living or
Correct.
something. So good for her for making that choice at a time. That probably helped her out and helped out the kids too. I talked to a lot of
It does. Yes.
6-year-olds, and there's a lot of weighing on your mind. You think you're worried about your kids, and next thing you know, you're worried about your parents.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
good. Well, I've got one more question for you, David. Before that, tell us, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Certainly. So if you'd like to go to infinitylifestyledesign.com, again, infinitylifestyledesign.com, there's a couple routes you can go. If you'd like to learn more about general time management, or if you want to do this retirement time management thing and kind of understand that, I've got an assessment on the first page. Just scroll down a little bit. You can take one or both of those and you get a free summary report on either one of those. It gives you enough foundation to understand, again, where are my strengths and then where my opportunities lie.
Yep, perfect. I'm looking at the website right now. I'll have that linked in the show notes, the infinitylifestyledesign.com. And also, you've got a book called The Time Optimized Life. We were introduced from another book, but here I see you've got your own book written with Reverend Dr. Susan Rose. So tell me about this co-author. How did that come about?
Well, I went ahead and based the book. The outline was for the first assessment that I mentioned, the time management analysis. And I wanted to flip the script, because too many people are reactive in how they use their time, and optimizing is being proactive. And the funny part with my wife, the Reverend Dr. Susan Rose, she ended up writing a chapter because we were walking one morning and I was talking about the book, and she said, you need to have you need to focus on a perspective of the average person that does it. So I threw out there, I said, well, what if you write a chapter? And she's like, yeah, okay, whatever. Well, when I submitted the manuscript, I had it open and I said, potential alternative perspective from my wife, and the publisher's like, oh yeah, she's writing her chapter. So she gives a real realistic perspective on how you optimize your time from a working mom's perspective, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that's great. And I like books, like giving away books. So if you're one of the first 3 people who emails me, podcast at KeilFP, podcast at KeilFP.com, I will send out to you The Time Optimized Life by David Buck and his lovely wife. Final question for you, David. Tell us something about yourself that few people know about. And remember, this podcast is rated clean.
Okay. I like to draw. And actually, I liked it as a kid, didn't do it for decades until my oldest, who's now much older than what he was, really liked to draw. I spent half a day with him when he was probably 8 years old, and we ended up drawing. So I do drawings as gifts for my family. Usually involves either a picture of their house or a landscape or something like that. Only ink. I don't do color well, but that's something that not a lot of people know about me.
Oh, that's great. Sounds like a great personal gift that people will hold on to. Right? There's no gift you receive with that, and people like that you took the time to do it. Awesome. Good. Well, thanks for coming on, David, sharing your wisdom and thoughts about how to focus on your time to really unleash the power of your time in retirement.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's been an honor. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for listening to the Retirement Revealed podcast. We believe if you know more about your money, you will feel better about your money and you will make better money decisions. Hi, I'm Jeremy Keil, owner of Keil Financial Partners. And if you're interested in seeing how we help our clients get more income, pay less in taxes, and avoid big retirement mistakes, make sure to go to KeilFP.com. That's KeilFP.com.